All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, September 17th. We have a bunch of exciting things going on this week. The biggest thing is that Backdrop 1.2 came out on Tuesday. It was probably around 11 o'clock, I suppose. And we had a whole bunch of things that went in the very last minute that made me personally very excited, which was fantastic. Wes, your responsive vertical tabs were amazing. Nate and I just couldn't, we kept playing with it and we're like, it just makes it feel so much more real to have like the administrative interface be fully responsive. It just makes it feel really different, even though it's maybe like not a huge piece of code. The impression it left is really great. So that was super exciting. Having a rich text editor in core is so huge for any Drupal-related project. I think it's going to be great for people to be able to get that out of the box. And then we did a couple of little teeny tiny like UI improvements at the last minute where I'm like, we just need to do these 3 things. And it's like, let's not put anything else in at the last minute. And like, just one more, just one more. So thank you, Nate, for being so tolerant and helping me get like the disappearing plain text sorted out. And there's a couple of things. What we've got follow-ups that are like, well, we wanted to get it in, but that's just too crazy to try and do it all at the last minute. So we'll work on getting those in the next few weeks. And I think that everything big we'll try and get organized and redone for the next release, which is the user experience release anyway. So I think having a good time now to kind of say, okay, it's got all these fantastic features. Let's make it easier to use. It's going to be huge for everyone. So thank you to everybody for working on 1.2.0. We definitely had a ton of involvement from a ton of really great contributors. So just wanted to put that out there. All right, so as usual, we have PHP Storm licenses for Backdrop Contrib developers. So if you are maintaining a Backdrop project in the Backdrop Contrib group and want to try PHP Storm, we can send you a license. Those licenses are running out. They're only good until February, so I think it might be worthwhile to contact the PHP Storm folks and see if we can get some licenses that last a little longer. Okay, so Nate says I'm scratching my microphone. I'm not even really sure where it is, but I'll try not to make so much noise. Don't be so excited and move around so much, I guess. Yes, sorry. I thought I was actually using my computer's microphone, but apparently there's one in my headset as well, so apologies for the scratching. Did I do it again? No. Okay. I'll just sit really still. We also, Nate, do you want to give us an update on this? Because this is what you've been working on, the browser stack tool.
Oh yeah, this is really exciting. So Browser Stack has open source licenses as well, which is great because Browser Stack is also kind of super expensive. But I know, Wes, you've been mentioning that you use Browser Stack to figure out all of these issues, and I'm like, I'm on like Firefox 38 on Yosemite on Mac, and it only happens on Mac and only on this version of Firefox, and you're like, what the hell? So this is really exciting because Browser Stack has 100-some browsers, and you can you even do like iOS testing and stuff like that on there? Yeah, it's pretty incredible tool, and so they have licenses that we can use to give to our authors to test responsive and browser issues. And it seems like they'll give us pretty much anything we want, but we do need to make sure that we thank them on our GitHub project page, which basically means in the README, and also on our website somewhere, which I think we'll put in our credits page. But we'll probably also end up putting references kind of all over the place wherever we have like contributing documentation, because we really want we want to encourage people to use that service because it will make for better responsive and better browser compatibility across Backdrop.
So yeah, you can test Windows Phone, Android phone, like every browser I've ever thought of. Like it works really, really well in Chrome. They have a browser extension, so highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've been using it in Firefox, and even that, I mean, it was just incredible. Like I just installed it, and then it went really well. Kind of speaking of which, we kind of have some IE8 issues since I pulled that up while I was in there, and I was like, yeesh, this needs some love. But
it also assumes that it assumes that no one ever updates their software, which is probably a good assumption. So like if you bring up, iOS blah or whatever, it's always like the base version that didn't get any updates. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, that's really exciting. I'm almost certain that we'll do that. It's a really great service, and what I'm excited about is I've been transitioning off of Apple products recently. So I'm running Ubuntu as my desktop now, and if you do that, you have no possible way of testing like iOS devices because it only works on Mac OS. So I'm excited because this will kind of liberate us from needing to be running Apple products in order to test Apple devices. So yay, more freedom. That's great. And thank you very much, BrowserStack. As soon as we get that hooked up, we'll let everybody know how that works. We're not sure about if we can actually invite individuals. We may end up with like 5 accounts or something crazy like that, but we'll figure it out. Let's see, the next topic, Drupal Camp Utah is coming up February 26th. That's a long way away. We mention it every week that they're just looking for a speaker on Backdrop. And if you're interested in visiting Utah February 26, 2016, then reach out to the organizers there, and you have the possibility of getting a scholarship up to $500 for covering your travel and lodging expenses. And it's a great time to snowboard out there. So let's see. Also, Jen's typing out in the notes right now, we also need speakers for Bad Camp, which is October 22nd. On Thursday is the Backdrop Summit Day. And we'd love to have anybody that's interested in Backdrop or has used Backdrop to share their experiences, whether that's like in a kind of a, like a format that is more open and less formal, or if you're up for giving a presentation, any of those things, we'd love to have you speak at Bad Camp in Berkeley, October 22nd. Some ideas like upgrading your site from D7, show and tell, theme development, module development, pretty much anything Backdrop related. Let's see. I'll just keep rolling here. Updates from the PMC, the project management committee. We don't have any updates at this time. The BrowserStack thing is kind of nice, but not really PMC related. Let's see, community growth. Lots more great community growth going on. 153 total projects for Backdrop CMS. We broke 150, which is nice. We have 5 new projects in the Contrib group since last week. There are around 76 total projects with official releases on backdropcms.org. It seems like most of our Contrib authors have got this figured out now, that you tag your project with 1.x- whatever the version number of your module is, and publish that tag on GitHub, and it synchronizes over with backdropcms.org. And so our backdropcms.org repository is looking nice. It's continuing to build out. There's 3 pages of modules, which is, I don't know, I find it exciting. 50 pages per or 50 modules per page. Let's see, and in the world of Contrib, we had a new applicant this week, so we're now up to 39 total contributed module authors, which is fantastic. Welcome, Matthew, if you watch this video. Welcome to our little community. He made a module called WordPress Menu, so it gives you the menu from WordPress in Drupal or Backdrop. He's trying to maintain it for everything. So we love that kind of enthusiasm and seeing those kinds of projects come over to Backdrop. Let's see, infrastructure tests. Every week we talk about how our infrastructure around Backdrop CMS is coming along. Let's see, update checking on backdropcms.org. This has been working for a long time, but our analytics aren't collecting properly. If you're interested in trying to fix our analytics, it's something in the project module, the contributed project module, that analytics aren't accruing properly. Even though we're getting pinged from all of the Backdrop websites that are out there and they're telling us what modules they're running, we're not processing that data correctly. We're saving it, but then when we process it, it doesn't calculate correctly. So once that gets resolved, we will also work on exposing out charts and that usage information publicly, so then everybody will finally be able to see how many backdrop sites are out there and what modules they're running. And as a side effect, that will make it so that we can make all of our module, theme, and layout pages sort by the most popular projects, because once we know how many sites are running each project, we'll be able to tell which modules are the most popular. Let's see, Project Browser and Project Browser Server. I think this is something that we might target for 1.3 because it's coming along really pretty well. There's been a lot of great activity in the queue the past couple of days from new users that are coming in trying out 1.2 because we made a bunch of noise about the new version. And that's been revealing some pretty interesting habits. It does seem like actually we had one user that was trying the module installer, the built-in module installer, and actually using that, but it's like 1.2 we may have broken the installer, so we'll need to fix that as well. But Project Browser will allow you to, from within your Backdrop website, download and install, find, download, and install projects, making it so you don't need to actually leave your site. You don't need to go to backdropcms.org. You don't need to go to GitHub. You can just find the modules directly from within your site and install them directly from within the UI. So pretty exciting. There's some work. I know Doc Wilmot filed a pull request to fix some issues that maybe solves that paging problem that we've been mentioning for the past couple of weeks, so that could get fixed pretty much imminently. Let's see, the next item is Drush for Backdrop, and Jen, you've been working on this a lot more than I have. Could you give the update?
Sure. So I spent some time working on that this week, and I ran into some new problems that I didn't run into last week, which was a little surprising, but I eventually was able to get myself back to where I was the week before. And the issue right now is that we currently use a database connection string that looks a lot like it did in Drupal 6, where it's a single string with your database information in it. And Drush for Drupal 7 expected an array, and we've kind of copied the way Drush for Drupal 7 works. And so Drush is unable to get our database connection information out of that string. So I found the place in Drush where it determines which version of Drupal you're running and then tries to dissect the information in the appropriate way. And we just need to somehow tell Drush, do it like Drupal 6 did it, not like Drupal 7 does it, or right now it's kind of confused as to which version to use at all. And so I found the source of the problem. Greg Anderson explained to me what it meant. And then now we just need to figure out, number one, how to get Backdrop to recognize a database string similar to Drupal 6, and then number two, how to rework Drush so that that part of the process where you tell Drush how to do that is part of the implementation for whichever content management system you're running. So that MySQL connection should be defined as part of it either being Drupal 6 or Drupal 7 and not need a separate MySQL connection part. So first I'm going to try and get it working now that I know what's wrong, and then I'm going to try and look at, okay, like how do we refactor this to make the database connection information be part of the definition of the site that's currently running it. So we have a way to detect which version of software it is, and so that needs to also say, oh, well, if I'm Drupal 7, I use the connection array, or if I'm Drupal 6, I use the string, or if I'm Backdrop, I use the Drupal 6 string. And we don't have that association working, so we need to figure that out too. So yeah, this morning I was like, what should I work on today? 1.2 is out, and I started thinking about it. I'm like, Drush, of course, that's what I was working on last week. It's what I should work on this week. But yeah, we'll get there. I think it's coming along, and hopefully we'll have it moving soon. We'll see. So should I keep going, Nate? You're muted. The next thing on our agenda is backdropcms.org, our primary website. Something kind of exciting about that website. Right before we launched 1.2, we wanted to see if the upgrade would work, and we also wanted to try and embed images in a post on backdropcms.org to talk about inline images. And we're like, oh, well, it would be great. We'll just test it by upgrading our website first. And so we ran the upgrade, and it worked great, which was fantastic. And then we were able to embed images in posts, so we even got backdropcms.org running 1.2.0 before 1.2.0 was actually out. It was a perfect test case. It went really smoothly, which I think is fantastic. So now we have the latest version of the software running our own site. We should probably also update the API site and any other sites we're responsible for. But for now, I'm just thrilled that we were able to get that out so soon and so seamlessly. Also on our primary website, we have integration for modules, themes, and layouts. There are a couple of little pieces left working on those, and we have a issue queue full of things that we'd like to add that include more closer integration with project module. Again, having usage statistics for things would be great. We need to then, once we get the usage statistics, display them. That piece isn't built yet either. And then there's a couple of minor follow-up issues for themes and layouts being slightly different than modules as well that we should figure out how to solve soon. I think what needs to come next for our primary website, now that we have modules and themes and layouts, is working on a single sign-on solution with GitHub, so that people who want to create accounts for Backdrop and have a GitHub account can push a button to do that, and people who don't have a GitHub account and still want to join the Backdrop community can create an account without needing that joined linking functionality. And then once we have people who are able to log into the Backdrop website, we can give them other things to do there, like edit their projects if they are a module, theme, or layout maintainer. They can do things like post information about sites they're building into our showcase, which is not built yet, but will be soon. And just kind of give people a little bit more of a community to join and things to do along with everyone else. So I think that's what's next on our agenda for the flagship website. Longer term, we also want to do things like provide listings of service providers, provide job listings, provide an event calendar, all of the kind of stuff that's worked really well for the Drupal community we should probably work on doing for Backdrop as well. In terms of Backdrop's project status itself, obviously 1.2 is out. We are really excited about that. There are a handful of issues that we have noticed after the release, like little tiny bugs, or even just before, where we're like, okay, we've identified a problem, we need to now fix it. Those are in the queue, obviously, to get worked on soon. And then we have a bunch of follow-up issues for the bigger modules that we put in, like date field module has some follow-up. Rich text editor has a lot of follow-up. There's just things that we couldn't quite get into the initial commit that we also want to add to the project. Those are all on our agenda. But for the most part, we hit all of our major milestones for 1.2, which is fantastic. Rich text editor, email field, link field, date field even ended up making it in. And I think that was mostly thanks to all of the great work that everyone had been doing, helping us with writing code, testing things, providing feedback. So fantastic job, everybody, on getting that done. So for 1.2.1, which is probably our next release.
Yeah, I meant to just mention that there was one last 1.1 release
Okay.
that includes all of the bug fixes. So 1.1.4 was also released on September 15th. So, I mean, I don't think there's any real reason why you would necessarily want to go to the next version of 1.1 instead of 1.2. But in the event that maybe you were using all of the modules, date, link, and CK editor on your site, maybe you just want to get the bug fixes while you transition to 1.2. Although really the experience that most people have had thus far has been really pretty positive. Email, link, and date all upgrade pretty directly. CK editor you have to reconfigure, but seems like everyone's been having pretty successful upgrades thus far.
Okay. Great. So that means that our next item is going to be 1.2.1.
Right.
And right now, the only things we have scheduled for that are fixes for CK editor. There's a handful of little tiny bugs that we noticed in actually using it after upgraded it. We're like, oh, this could be better this way. This, it works if you do it this way, but it doesn't work if you do it that way. And trying to make it consistent for however people are going to try and play with things, I think would be great. And then, of course, if any other issues come out, I think there's a couple of Drupal security issues that may be coming out next week. That might be a good time to do our bug fixes if we can get them all in by the time we have security issues. Those will all go out together. Everyone will upgrade and bugs will go away, which is fantastic. But yeah, nothing super urgent right now. Just a lot of little things. And
Yeah,
then our
there was kind of one nasty issue with CK Editor that if you turn on JS aggregation, then CK Editor doesn't show up on your node forms, which isn't great. But I mean that we already fixed that problem, but there hasn't been a release yet. Um, I don't know. We could probably hobble along for a week without another release with that issue in place. But it would be nice to get fixed as soon as possible.
is JavaScript enabled by default aggregation?
No. So
Okay.
you have to turn on JavaScript aggregation, and you have to configure CK Editor on one of your text formats. But I guess out of the box,
Out of the
nothing is
box, CK
broken.
editor is enabled on a text format.
Yeah. But
Okay.
and if you're upgrading, CK Editor isn't turned on. You have to turn it on yourself. So it's not in the critical path, but it does seem like a lot of production sites would have that combination of JS aggregation turned on and using CK Editor.
Okay, well, if it looks like it's going to be more than a week before the security issues are done, maybe we'll just push out a release of Backdrop with that fix in it next
Cool.
week, so we don't hop along for too long
Yeah.
with a fixed bug.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So issues for 1.3. 1.3 is going to be a user experience release. And we have a bunch of really big items that we want to tackle. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get like field UI rewritten by 1.3, but this is definitely an example of a really big user interface that we want to kind of rethink. Layouts UI, I think we can get done. There's a bunch of little teeny tiny changes we want to do that'll improve layouts. And then there's a bunch of little things we can do to improve views as well. Some of the issues with views came up just by adding our new administration theme and having things be inconsistent. Some of them are just things that we think that we could tweak a little bit and make it better. And then there's just a whole bunch of little teeny tiny things that I think if we can spend some time focusing on user experience in a lot of different areas, we can make a big difference with the product. And I would love to see a whole bunch of those getting resolved in 1.3. Again, this is the kind of thing where we don't necessarily have to wait until 1.3 is out to get them all done. I think depending on the scope of the change, we could just say, oh, it's a minor improvement, it's a terminology change, and just push them out one at a time between now and 1.3. But if we do have anything that's, big, like field UI, that would probably wait, and we'd want to do it at once, so it's not changing the experience for anyone significantly without them being aware that that's going to happen. There's a couple of things I put on the list for 1.3 that are feature equivalence tasks for Drupal 8. So Drupal 8 has reworked their menu administration. I think we can use the same kind of approach. There's already a Drupal 7 module that solves the problem. I think just kind of looking at how that problem is solved with form alters and doing it directly in core is a good way to approach that problem. And then there's a couple of little leftover tasks like turning some of our admin listings and front page listings into default views that I think we can handle as well. So just a bunch of little things, and then if you look at the GitHub issue tracker for 1.3, there's a ton of stuff that's tagged for 1.3 and there's a user experience issue. I'm not sure we'll get to all of it, but I think having a list there of saying, like, these are the things that we think are important, these are the ones that we're going to work on is good. And if there are things that, aren't necessarily tagged for 1.3, but we want to get them in, we can always try and do that as well. I think the more improvement, the better. So we'll see how that goes. We're also, even though this is specifically focused on a user experience release, we are also really interested in developer experience, although some of these problems are harder to solve without breaking APIs. So if you are getting started with Backdraft and you're writing modules, themes, or layouts, and you find things that are just weird about working with the software, we want to know about it. I mean, we know Drupal has a bunch of weird. There's a little weird in every software platform. But if we can take the things that are weird and make them intuitive, I think that's good. So it's fine if things are weird, as long as you can figure them out fairly quickly and without too much pain and suffering. So if there's something where you're like, well, it would make so much more sense if it was just this way, let us know what that is, whether it's having your arguments in a function going in a different order. We can write a repr function for that and try and make that more intuitive. Or if it's just like hooks that don't work the way you expect them to, just explain what your anticipated, what you expected, and what actually happened. And if you have an idea of how to make that less confusing for people who are new to Backdrop or people who are coming to Backdrop from Drupal, we'd love to hear about it. If we can fix it in the 1.x version, we will. If not, we'll think about a solution that might work for 2.x. So definitely trying to make it easier to learn this software. Every Thursday after this meeting, we have a little sprint where we all try and work together on Backdrop issues. We hang out in our IRC channel, which is pound Backdrop. If IRC isn't your thing, you can also hang out with us on Twitter. Backdrop CMS is our hashtag. We also have a Reddit, which is reddit.com/r/backdrop. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to have a place for people to communicate or collaborate on backdropcms.org as well. For now, we're using primarily the GitHub issue queue as a place for everybody to get together and work on things at the same time. So if you're interested in working on Backdrop and have some time on Thursday afternoons, you'll find a lot of communication with a bunch of other people in the Backdrop community, but a lot of us are there most of the time anyway, so if you only have time to work on Backdrop on weekends or evenings or first thing in the morning on a Tuesday, that's perfectly fine. You'll probably get answers to your questions and responses to your work within a short amount of time anyway. We do have a number of upcoming events. If you are interested in finding out what our meeting schedule is, there is an iCal feed of that. But generally speaking, we have this meeting every Thursday at noon, and then every other week we have a design meeting just before that. Oh, sorry. Design meeting's at noon. This meeting's at 1 p.m. Those times are California time. So if you are not in California time, we'll have to do the math. Or use the iCal feed, which will adjust automatically. We also have a couple of upcoming Backdrop events, and we have an iCal feed for that as well. In the near future, we have the Pacific Northwest Drupal Summit, which is in early October, October 10th through 12th. We have the Backdrop Summit at Bad Camp, and we have Drupal Camp Ohio that same weekend, which is October 22nd through 25th. The Backdrop Summit itself is on the 22nd, and Drupal Camp Ohio doesn't start till the 23rd. And then we know about Drupal Camp Utah, which is in February. There's also Sand Camp, which I think is the same weekend as Drupal Camp Utah, which is a little unfortunate. You have to choose between ski or sand, but not so rough, really. And then if you guys are attending Drupal events that you know are going to be open to having people talk about Backdrop, let us know. We'll put them on this calendar. If anybody wants to give a talk on Backdrop at any upcoming events, let us know. We'll throw that on our calendar as well. We definitely want to try and keep all of the information about where anyone can go to hear about Backdrop as up to date as possible. At some point, we will decide we need our own Backdrop events instead of using Drupal events, but I feel like as long as Drupal 7 is relevant, Backdrop and Drupal 7 are almost the same thing, and it would be good to keep all the people together, collaborate, and share ideas across both platforms. So we'll just see when people feel like we need more Backdrop-specific stuff, we can start moving that way too. For now, I think we're fine continuing to work with Drupal events as long as the Drupal event organizers are happy with that. So. Speaking of Drupal events, DrupalCon Barcelona, I think, is next week. So I'm not sure if any of you are disappearing for a week for that event, but that's supposed to be really exciting. Spain is beautiful this time of year, so happy travels to anyone who's going. I'm a little sad we aren't going, but next year we'll go to Europe. It'll be great. All right. Let's see. We still have an article on Backdrop CMS in Drupal Watchdog, although there is a new Drupal Watchdog coming out very shortly. So you'll have to be looking for back issues after that. And then let's see if anyone has anything else you know about where you are writing a blog post about Backdrop or watching a video and you think people should know about it. Let us know and we can throw that up here too so we talk about it every week and get more information out there for more people. But that's it. Does anybody have anything else you want to add or questions you want to ask for this week's meeting? Wes's dog wanted to come say hi, but all right. Well, again, thank you to everybody who put in so much hard work on Backdrop 1.2. I'm really proud of it. I love working with Backdrop. It makes me really happy. So, happiness for all. Hooray. We'll see you all in IRC and on GitHub. Thanks for joining, guys.
All right, bye
Bye.
guys.